Okay, hi gang. We're looking at 7F. 7F is all about capacity. It's worth realizing that there is a difference between capacity and volume, but it's only a small difference. The terms are almost interchangeable, at least in everyday language, but technically they do have different meanings. So, for example, imagine I had a cup. Let's make it like a coffee cup made out of china or ceramic, so it can be a little bit thick around the edges, and it's got a handle on it somewhere. You know, you could think about the volume. I'll just label this. This is a ceramic cup, and it's quite thick. Okay, you could think about the volume of ceramic that made the cup, right? So what's the volume of the material that I will have to make the cup, as opposed to the capacity, right? What this means is how much liquid does the cup actually hold, all right? So the book says the capacity of a container is the quantity or how much of fluid that it can hold, right? And there's a difference between volume and capacity, right? Volumes are measured in something like cubic centimeters or meters cubed. Capacity, when we're thinking about how much liquid would go into this cup, it would be in milliliters, liters, or maybe even kiloliters or megaliters, or something like that. Right, so please be aware that there is a difference between those two things. I did a quick Google search because the book only really writes this one line of explanation here. I said, what's volume and capacity? What are their definitions? And the first thing that's come up, which looks fine to me, volume is the amount of space taken up by an object, right? Whereas capacity is the measure, it's how much the object holds, like a liquid. We're normally talking about liquids. Although I suppose technically you could put a gas inside of a container, or you could put a solid substance inside the container as well. Right? So if someone asks you, what volume of Coca-Cola do you have in your bottle, you can correct them and say, actually, I have a capacity of 600 milliliters. The volume of the plastic that made this Coca-Cola bottle, I'm not actually sure. We'd have to calculate that. Right. So there is a difference, even though in everyday language we don't often recognize that difference. Okay, we start off with conversions. So let's have a look at that. Like a lot of these questions. Maybe if we do C and E, I'm just picking some at random. We've got to go from milliliters to liters in the first one. So if I draw out liters, milliliters, 1,000 times smaller, kiloliters, 1,000 times bigger. Remember K times 1,000. Right. I can draw some arrows for how we're going to convert between the two. If we wanted to go from milliliters to liters, we'd have to divide by 1,000. If we want to go from liters to kiloliters, we'd divide by 1,000. Kiloliters to liters, we're now timesing. Liters to milliliters, we're also timesing. So there are 1,000 milliliters in a litre. There are 1,000 litres in a kilolitre. In this question, we want to convert from milliliters to litres. So we would need to divide by 1,000. You take 4,600, you divide by 1,000, and you get 4.6 litres. Okay. Now, the other question I'm picking out at random is E. Let's say we had to convert all the way to kilolitres. So we start with 3,970 millilitres. Right? We've got to get to kilolitres. We need to go through this chain twice. We have to divide by 1,000 and then divide by 1,000 again. So we divide by 1,000, that'll be 3.97. Divide by 1,000 again. I think this would be worth double checking in a calculator for a lot of you. It can be a little bit confusing when you start going down to really small numbers. And just make sure that we actually write kilolitres. Okay, so you could go 3,970, divide 1,000, press equals. Divide 1,000 again, press equals, and see what answer you get. Okay, now I'm going to skip to question 4 so that this video focuses on conversions. Question 4 is about converting between volumes and capacities, and a question like this one here, or even the first one. A kilolitre is equivalent to a cubic metre, so the answer there is just 83. Here, a millilitre is basically the same as a cubic centimetre, right? So the answer is the same number, right? There's some more explanation on the previous page. Directly underneath it here, a kilolitre, it's the same as a cubic metre for all intents and purposes. So this would be 0.46 metres cubed. But let's look at some of the ones that use litres. If I look at C and D. Right. C and D. Okay. There's the school bell. Okay, let's do this on a diagram. We had millilitres, litres, kilolitres before. Right, now the millilitre, that's like a cubic centimetre, and the kilolitre is a cubic metre, right? The litres lies in between those two. It's a little bit like how we put centimetres in between millimetres and metres, right? And the reason for this extra litres is basically because if we're going all the way from centimetres cubed to metres cubed, sorry, my pen has just frozen. There we go. If we were doing that conversion, right, we would have to divide by 100 cubed, which is the same as dividing by 1,000,000, right? And there's quite a big difference, right? The centimetres cubed is really quite a small volume compared to, you can imagine a cube that's the size where all the sides are 1 metre. That's quite a large volume, right? And this conversion is 1,000,000. So it really makes sense to have, when it comes to capacities, something in the middle, this litres, all right? Okay. So let's have a look at these questions. Let's say we wanted to go from 7,154 metres cubed to litres, right? That'd be like going from kilolitres back to litres. What we'd have to do there is times by 1,000. So if we think of the kilolitres as being, so this metres cubed is equivalent to kilolitres. It's like we've got 7,154 kilolitres, and then we would times that by 1,000 to get to litres, right? So the answer there would be, I think I've just got enough room to write this, 7154 times 1,000, 3 extra zeros, litres. Okay? And now maybe you can just think about this one for a second. I'm going to pause. Let you think about it. Could you do this question here? How would you do it? Okay, let's go. So the centimetres cubed, they're like millilitres, right? They're equivalent. They're basically the same, really. So it's like we've got 2,300 millilitres, and we want to convert that to litres. We would have to divide by 1,000 to do that. Divide by 1,000. All right, you can refer to the diagrams in the book or on your formula sheets for this. So the answer here would be this number, 2,300 divided 1,000 is 2.3 litres. Okay. Thank you for watching.